Hey, everybody, it's Tim Gillette, and we're back with another Tim Gillette show. I know, we're finishing out the week with great, cool people that we get to introduce to you. Today's guest is no different. Today's guest is a really cool guy. I met this guy a couple years ago, actually at an in-person event that a friend of mine, Cynthia, was putting together. She happened to be in town. She says, hey, I'm bringing some of my friends together. Let's go have some barbecue. So I know he's a good guy because our first sit down was over some barbecue. All right, that tells you he's a good guy. All right, but he's moved and changed his life quite a bit during the pandemic. He's got a huge podcast, couple of podcasts going of his own. All right, got a huge message out there, helping some people, doing some things, and I get the privilege to interview him today. Paul Ybarra is I want to call him a close friend because really I've introduced to him to some of his closest friends, and he's introduced me to some close people, and we just keep connecting around the planet and helping people. And that's what we do today by letting you know who he is. So let me bring him up here today. Mr. Paul, how are you?
What's going on, Tim? I am doing fantastico, man. Glad to be on your show and honored. And thank you for bringing me on, man.
You bet. So, I mean, well, you know what I mean? Well, you got up early, though. You do an early morning podcast, don't you?
Yes, I'm up at 3:30 a.m. and I go live at 5:30 a.m. Mountain Time with your great friend, Jens Johnson. We do Wake Up into Work. Yeah.
Jen's great friend. Jen's has been a guest on my show last year. I got to get her back on again. So she's a great friend of our community as well. But yeah, you and do you know Glenn Lundy?
Yes.
Yeah. Glenn Lundy. You two do that early morning thing. All right. I watched the replay. I am not getting up that early.
Right. That's funny, man. Yeah. It's definitely work. And so, yeah.
But I just did go get Paul. I just got an invite to be on someone's podcast at 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. my time.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, that's too late.
Okay. I have no problem making that one.
Right.
You may, but I don't.
Yeah. That's about time. I'm already starting to dream.
Yeah. I'm just winding down for my day. Now my wife goes to bed about 10 o'clock. She crawls into bed herself, and it's about midnight, maybe sometimes 1 a.m. before I go to bed, but I get up at 8. So even if I go to bed at 1, I'm still up at 8. So that's only like 7 hours really. Right. I have an up at 8. So like I have my morning that is morning to me. But like that early morning stuff, unless I'm catching a flight someplace, I'm not getting up that early.
Yeah. My wife tells me all the time on Saturdays, that's when I sleep in. Mm-hmm. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And she's like, it's 6 o'clock. I'm like, to me, it's 2.5 hours overtime. So it's good.
The simplest of joys we get. All right. I get to sleep in. Paul, it's like, I would actually take that in my world. And I would say to my wife something like, you know what I mean? Well, honey, I decided to take a vacation today. I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. instead of 3. Right. I'm going to take it easy.
Right. Yeah.
I tell everybody because, you knew me. I had the big truck, right? The big Dodge truck. Well, its warranty ran out and everything. I traded in, and I was going to get another Dodge truck, right? The new Dodge truck, when I bought it, it was like in the 50s. Now it's in the 80,000s, and I'm like, I'm not paying $80,000 for a vehicle. Yeah. So I tell everybody, well, I decided to downgrade. I got a Mercedes.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
I downgraded from a truck.
Right.
I love, hilarious. You know what I mean? And I know you have that same sense of humor, too. It's like, you know what I mean? Life is too short not to have that sense of humor.
Hey, man. You got to laugh, bro. You got to laugh.
You got to. So, and I get, some of your clients, I know, and as we get into what you do, all right, some people in your world, I guess, really need some laughter because they really got to be set free from some crap, man, don't they?
Absolutely. From seriousness. That's the biggest thing from being too wound up, too tight. It's like, listen, man, look at life. There's 3 hums that I look at: human, humor, and humility. All of those tie hand in hand. Just relax. Your life is going to be all right. You just got to take a deep breath and enjoy life, man. Act like every day is a vacation. You know what I'm saying? And it's a concept that's learned, but once you learn it, it's a wrap.
Now, I want to dive into this a little bit because I know you're a very relaxed guy. All right. You're very serious. About what you do. You know what I mean? And you've got the humility down. But hey, every now and then, do you get angry and get upset at things?
Oh, absolutely. I'm still human.
So you're human. Okay, cool.
I'm human. It totally blows my mind when I see someone wanting to get frustrated and they're just like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, dude, you got to let it out.
Yeah.
Like, you got to let that stuff out. You have to confront it. You got to look at it, and you got to say, you know what? I'm going to choose my battles today.
Yeah.
Which way do I want to go? And absolutely, I mean, I'm human, just like you, and just like everyone else. It's an emotion. It just depends on how we respond to it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And truthfully, I'm a business coach, so I've got coaching clients along business and stuff online. But I've had clients get on the Zoom call with me, and they just want to dump, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, "No, dump.
Yeah.
I want this to be the safe place you can dump, because
Right.
I don't want you to go out and dump that on your potential clients. I'd rather you dump it on me." And I was like, "Well, that's okay." And I'm like, "Yes, it's called a human emotion. You're gonna have it."
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll bet that's a set free thing right there.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I meet with my clients, it's a very organic conversation. We go over all of their wins, but there are times when they'll show up and they'll be like, man, I had this week. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's talk about it. Like, what's the issue? And then we look at it. We'll be laughing, joking. I'll share my life experiences, and then also let them know, Tim, like, listen, I just had this crazy moment 3 days ago. And so I just had to work through it. So letting other people know, letting your clients know, letting your congregation know, whatever, letting them know that you're human, that's what breaks all those stigmas off of people that are in positions of coaching, counseling, ministry, whatever that is. It'll totally break the room through, like, oh, okay, I can relate with Tim. I can relate with Paul. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's all about, being honest, authentic, and real with people. Letting them know, listen, I walk around this flesh just like you do. I put my pants on one leg at a time. We all have the same issues. It's all part of life. So,
and I was doing a thing one time, Paul. This has got to be 3-4 years ago. I was doing a thing with somebody, and we like conversation like this on a live stream, and the conversation come out, and I said, well, what mistakes you did? And I said, well, I'm going to tell you a mistake I did that's going to upset some people, and realize that I'm human. And I did. And a lady in the middle of the conversation, the lady went and signed up for my email list. And by the time I told my mistake, she unsubscribed from my email list and said, oh, I can't be around anybody who makes that mistake.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
Now I'm not going to tell you what the mistake was. It was a mistake. And I know it was a mistake, but I had the guts to admit it.
Hey,
right.
We all got faults.
Yeah.
We all got baggage, and yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
I'm dealing this week personally. I was dealing personally into my own life. I'm dealing personally with just some people who didn't keep their word to me. All right. Business deals that I got contracts and they didn't keep their word, and I'm having to go out and pay other people to do the work that I paid them to do. And I'm like, and I flew off the handle yesterday. I did. I flew off the handle. I did not turn the camera on this time. I got smart. I flew off the handle. But I did. I got upset. All right. Yeah. I got upset and took it out on the guy. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I didn't mean to take it out on him, but he was the guy who was there to deliver the news. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely. It was even last week, me and my wife go to Lowe's, and it was late in the day, and we're driving through, and now they have all these stop signs in front of every store, which to me drives me nuts. And so I'm just slowly rolling, and this couple walks by, and I was like 10 feet from him, and he just starts mean mugging. So I rolled down my window and I said, do I know you? And he says, no. And I said, okay. And I just kept on rolling. My wife's like, what just happened? I said, the guy was looking at me like I owed him money or like I stunk. So I just confronted it, because it's, for me, we are in a time right now where people are so afraid to confront.
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, if you know me, then let's have a conversation. But if not, what are you looking at me crazy for? So I just thought I'd throw that in just to let people know, hey, we're real. We make mistakes. We move on, and we continue to do this thing called life.
Again, all right. I wasn't there in the experience, but immediately I go to it. I mean, yeah, you didn't see my movie? And then I would roll my window back up and drove on. He went home that day to his wife going, what movie was that guy in?
I love it.
Again, gotta have fun with life. I just, and Paul, I've done this for fun in my life. For years. This is something I've been doing for years. I go into a store or business and I get waited on. Starbucks, for instance, and I frequent and use, I go to attend an event regularly at the Starbucks or at the Sheraton at LAX airport and at LAX, and they have a Starbucks inside of it. And the first time I ever went there, the guy's just like all serious. Look, I mean, and anything else for you today, sir? And I'm like, Jennifer Lopez's home phone number would be great. I was in there just before the pandemic. That same guy still works in the store 9 years later, right? And he says, "Hey, still finding that Jennifer Lopez's phone number." He still talks to me like, because what? I lighten the mood with a joke.
Yeah.
And everybody goes, "Well, I want $1 million." I'm like, yeah, everybody uses that one, dude. Come up with an original one.
Yeah, come on. I love it, man. I love it.
So, Paul, I want to go into some of the stuff you're doing, all right, and some of the podcasts you do now. You did you have been doing your own podcast. Is it Set Free or is it Coach Paul? What that podcast is the one that started you on podcasting, correct?
It is Coach's Corner.
Coach's Corner. Okay.
Yes, and what it was designed to do at first was bring other coaches on and just kind of interview and all that kind of jazz. And so it slowly morphed into just me just having dialogue, talking about scripture, talking about life. But then this year, I with COVID and everything, all kinds of groups started opening up, Clubhouse, all these different apps, and so I just got in touch with a lot of people that were coaches and that were doing pretty much the same thing. And so I started interviewing just a ton of people and just having fun with it. And so that's what Coach's Corner is really about. And then I started last year my Life Tips podcast. And from that is where my book came out, because I'm like, you know what? I can put all of these tips in a book. So I just literally transcribed and downloaded them all and gave them to my VA and got her rocking. We went into Amazon, didn't know what we were doing, got the book together and wrote a book. And so it just launched June 1st, which was really cool. First time ever doing that. Had fun doing that. But all of those podcasts came into the book. But yeah, I am still doing Coach's Corner. I'm relaunching in September. I had to take a break, getting the book out and all that good stuff. But now I'm being more intentional on maybe 2 guests per month versus 1 every week. And, just trying to get guests. I am trying to get valuable guests that are going to come in. Not that anybody else wasn't valuable, but just intentional on everything that I'm doing from this part out. So, that's where you can find
I know this guy that can set you up with this whole application process to make them go through it.
Yeah, I think I know him too. I think I'm looking at him. Good stuff, man.
Oh, yeah, really good stuff. So, I mean, yeah, you've been doing that for a while. And I think you were doing that when I met you when Cynthia was in town, right? That's what you were doing that then, right?
I was doing Periscope. I was doing Periscope nonstop. I was part of that whole tribe. Cynthia Bazin, we had Larissa, and probably 5 or 6 of us that were going back to back. And then that's how I met Cynthia Bazin. And then that's when we did the Periscope meetup, and that's where you and I met. So that's what I was doing then, was really truly doing Periscope and doing like ministry in the streets and all that when I was out in Dallas. But then after that, that's when life happened. And so I went to work at Kroger. I was working for myself and things didn't work out the way that I planned them to. Went to Kroger and kind of went through this season of trying to figure out, which way do I go now? I knew that I had a passion for people. I knew that I had a voice, may not be the greatest voice, but I have a voice. I knew how to get on camera. I learned all that from Periscope. And from there, it started morphing into, you know what? I think I'm going to do a podcast, and started just recording, trying to figure it out. Went, bought a little iRig and got my iPad, hooked that up and said, "Oh, this works. I can do this." And from there, it continued to morph and continued to build. And I just stayed in action. And as long as I just stayed in action, everything continued to flow. So that's how all that came to transpire.
Well, Can we dive into that a little bit? All right, because this is something as an entrepreneur and helping people in entrepreneur world and online marketing that I get a lot of people who are afraid to do, and that is take a step back to get a visual. You took a step back and took a job. Now, most people won't do that. I personally did that in 2005. I left from running $1 million business to come by and work at Starbucks, of all things, as a barista. Step back to really get a grasp on life. Tell us about that stepping back and how that helped you gain perspective on life.
Whew, that was probably one of the hardest seasons for me, but it was the best season for me
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because when you're in a place where you have a vision of something that isn't quite working any longer,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to let go of the baby and figure out what's going to give birth next.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough place. However, I am one that will preach it from sun up to sundown. You can't make any moves if you don't make a step. And
Yeah.
so in that, it was like, all right, I've always been constantly on the move. I think this is my season. This was about 2017. This is my season to step back and really check myself to say, things are crumbling around you.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you going to do? Go back to the basics. And it was very, um, it was a lot of humility on my part because there was a lot of flesh that had to be broken. There was a lot of pride, a lot of arrogance, a lot of just a lot of that going on. And so going to Kroger, it was like, okay, here I go. Started stocking shelves. People that I knew, would come to the store. Oh my God, I'm going to pray for you. So sorry that you're here. And I'm like, why are you
Like,
sorry?
sorry. Yeah.
Like I'm working. Like
Yeah.
I'm not asking you for money. I didn't, it was one of those moments like who do you think you are? Like this is a job. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? And so quickly through there, I just kept working, just kept grinding, kept working, trying to figure out the store. I didn't wait around for them to tell me where aisle 6 was. When customers would come up, they would be like, "Hey, where's this?" I said, "Listen, I've only been here 3 days, but let's go find it." And
Mm-hmm.
I would go find it, and I just started making relationships just
Yeah. Yeah.
everywhere. And so then from there, went to the night shift, became supervisor. Within a year and a half's time, I was making almost triple the money that I was making when I started. And at that moment, I'm like, okay, I'm 47 years old, 48 years old. And I'm looking at other managers and I'm going, do I want this life? Because
Yeah.
I can grind and I can do this. But do I want to be tied to this building?
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, that's when I told my wife, I said, I don't think this is it. This is great, but I don't think it's it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, obviously then transition happened and life happened. I went to work for the school district. But to answer your question, what to say to those who are in that place, take that step back. And when you take that step back, you really truly understand what is important in life.
Mm-hmm.
You will really truly understand, you know what? I like coming and I like stocking these shelves. I like meeting new people. I like this because this is bringing me to a place where I had to understand this.
Mm-hmm.
If I am what I have and I lose it, then who am I?
Yeah.
And so that was my season, Tim, of really truly figuring out who is Paul Ybarra. I
Mm-hmm.
just had this conversation earlier with somebody. Most of the time when we're in masterminds or local meetups or whatever, hey, who are you? We immediately go to what we do. We don't talk about who we are. You follow what I'm saying? And I wanted to know at that point in my life, who am I?
Yeah.
Am I set free pastor? Am I a minister? Am I a husband? Am I a coach? Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the journey began. And I'm still trying to really truly figure that out because life is all about doing what we do. And that slowly becomes the identity. And that's where I have to remind myself daily, if I am what I have and I lose it, who am I?
Yeah.
So I have to constantly look at Paul to say what's important. The money at the moment was not important. The importance was finding out what my path was for the rest of my life because I was at halftime. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I still got halftime left. Where do I go? How do I do this? And what's not the easiest way, but
Mm-hmm.
not the way that is going to break your head?
Yeah.
Because we hear so many times like, work hard, work hard, work hard. Okay, I get it. I'll work, but I really don't like to work hard. And
Yeah.
so when I started to figure out, okay, I really don't like construction no more. I don't want to stock shelves. How can I use the gift that I have,
Yeah.
which is the gift to gab, and then also the heart, the passion part of it to help people? And then that's when coaching started transpiring. And then I went and got my um, recovery coach certification out of Texas. Started, going through the addiction side of recovery, which was great. It was a great learning curve. But to be honest, I really couldn't support my family doing that. And so
Yeah.
it was like, okay, how do I take this gift into a whole nother realm? And that's where I'm at today. Moved from Dallas, Texas, all the way to Colorado during COVID. Um, for me, it was like beating all odds. My wife and I, neither one of us were working. My business hadn't even taken off yet. And we just just simply moved by faith and said, Lord, if you're going to do this, this is what we feel that we want to do. Um, Show us the way. And I'm here on your show today. So God's good, man.
Oh yeah, it is. And transitions is something that we go through a lot in our lives. And mine was, I mean, it's the same thing. Like I went to work for Starbucks, and you know what I mean? They wanted me to do all kinds of things because basically I was taking a break, and I'm like, okay, I'm here to put my time in to do a task you need done. I don't do anything half-assed. All right. I'm going to do a job.
Right.
I'm going to do a job. All right. I'm not here to, okay, I'm just here to click the check. No, I'm going to do the job.
Right.
So I kept being well, we want you to be a store manager. And I kept going, no, not interested. No, not interested. No, not interested. Because I did exactly what you said. I looked at those people around me and I went, I don't like what that store manager's lifestyle is.
Yeah.
Not interested.
Yeah.
All right. And everybody's like, well, what are you going to do? I don't know. I'll figure it out. Trust me, the opportunity. And I had people offer me a job over the bar at a Starbucks to come, six-figure job to come run a company. And I'm like, when can you just say somebody that, well, yeah, I decided to hire this new manager for my company and pay him six figures. We had a conversation across a bar. He was a barista.
Right. Right.
But that's, my time at Starbucks was learning how to build relationships again.
Absolutely.
Learning how to listen to people. And it was huge to where something that I did at Starbucks is still in their training because I learned it. I was learning it myself, not because I came there and was all knowledgeable. No, I had to learn it. And once I learned it, they're like, hey, will you teach that to the rest of the people? Wow. And it was a simple task and I'm doing it here now. Still, I'm writing things down, changing things down here while talking to you.
Right.
At Starbucks, the good barista will stand there and make your drink and be able to keep looking up, eye contact, and hold a conversation with you. Wow. If you ever go to a Starbucks, you notice that was something that, you know what I mean? I didn't know how to do it. I had to figure it out.
Right.
But that taught me a life lesson. So
wow.
Interesting things though. And, you know what I mean? And you've gone through quite a journey. Now, you know what I mean? You moved to Colorado. I find a lot of people who, during the pandemic said, listen, I'm not living life this way anymore. I'm going to go find my life. You know what I mean? And it's interesting that you're called a set-free coach. And you know what I mean? You're dealing with a lot of people who are basically have realized that they may not have been in an addiction, but they've been in a work addiction their entire life.
Absolutely.
I would love your thoughts on that.
There's so many people that are in that transition right now that I am coaching as far as one of them came from a six-figure income. They got laid off due to COVID and in this place of what do I do? Where do I go from here? And since we started coaching, they quickly realized, wow, like I don't even want to go back, because their whole passion was, I want to be able to do something for somebody inwardly, not outwardly. And so we started just working through that. And so now they're doing online summits. They're doing, just getting out there and really truly helping people. And it's so freeing. It's, for me as well to watch it happen, because I guess it's more clear to me because I went through it, but as you're going through it, you don't really see it until you see it in someone else. And when you see it in someone else, I'm sitting there just going, wow, like this is where I was. And this is where these people are transitioning, understanding perspective, understanding, and truly asking them. I asked them last week, hey, do you want to go back to that corporate life? Because they have people calling them, hey, we need you to come and work, because they're well known. And that same day, they're like, it's funny that you say that, because I got an email that one of these companies wanted me to come and work. And I told them no, that I was happy right where I was at, trying to figure this thing out and really enjoying my life and actually putting perspective into something that I've wanted to do for years, helping other women, helping them through all of their inside stuff, you know, all the stuff. And it's amazing to see that happen and also help them through the whole thing of, listen, because you work for yourself, and I understand there's not a whole lot of money coming in. However, let's get some self-care in there.
Yeah.
Let's get some peace in there. Have you been walking? Have you been just sitting out on a park bench and just enjoying the birds?
Yeah.
Have you been doing those things? Because if you haven't done those things, you might as well go on back to corporate.
Yeah.
And so just learning that and teaching them that, and I myself am constantly relearning that every day. It's a joy, man. It's just an absolute joy to be able to see people blossom from this cocoon into this butterfly that is just not worried about money, because I believe this, the money part of it is the byproduct of all your servanthood. If you're serving people, the money's going to come. As long as you just serve people, your coaching business, your makeup business, your landscaping business, whatever that is, if you have the mindset of servanthood, and I know you know this stuff. I mean, you're out
I'm
there.
a Christian as well. I'm Christian by faith, as well. So yeah,
you know, and it's in that lane, just knowing, you know what, it's about me, but it's really not about me. So what can I do to help somebody else? Because at some point, all of this will make sense. And so, yeah.
Well, I love it. I mean, and I see this in a meme a lot too, Paul, of so many people put it out there. You know what I mean? God asked you to do, he gave you a vision and you're like, well, I can't afford it. He didn't make your vision match your checkbook.
Right.
He made your vision match his vision.
Right.
And you got to go on faith. I mean, it's the entire idea is faith. All right. You take acts on faith.
Right.
And you know what I mean? I can tell you, I went through some tough times. I mean, when you and I met, at the time I was like going to give up coaching. I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Forget this. All right. I can go trade stocks and make that kind of money every day. I can go buy more real estate, make that kind of money every day. I was dealing with it and going, but then it came down to, but what's the vision? What are you supposed to be doing with your time?
Right.
What are you supposed to do with this space on this earth?
Right.
You know, and it was about that time that I started and implemented this process in my life. And during the pandemic, it was hard to do this. I do a morning. I know you talk about more, self-care and morning. I call it morning meditation. Now I get to spend mornings having coffee with my mom because she lives here. Back then she didn't. She lived in Pennsylvania.
Oh,
but
wow.
I would get up every morning and I go to Starbucks and it was meditation time. No phone. Phones down. And I'm just sitting there enjoying my coffee, saying hi to people coming in, but I mostly staring out the window.
Right.
All right. And to the world is like, you know what I mean? He's off in a daze. To me, I'm meditating.
Yeah.
What's my day going to be like? What's the next step in this vision? You know what I mean? And it's clearing the mind. You say going out to the park bench, going out, you know what I mean? There are, I call them stupid little things like that make all the difference in the world to free you. Well, I can't afford to go to. Yeah, but you can afford a $2 cup of coffee to sit and meditate.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, for me, we have this little lake. It's supposed to be a lake, but it's like a pond. That's about a block and a half from us. I go there probably 4 times every day. When I'm done with my morning broadcast, 6:05 hits, I'm on my walk. Sometimes I don't even take the phone. I just go. And as I'm walking throughout the day, I have different circles of people that I'm recognizing. And so, hey, what's your name? I see you every day. How many miles do you run? 4 miles. And it hurts. I'm like, 1 mile hurts for me, but just being able to just get out there, get that self-care, breathe the Colorado air, even though it's a little bit hazy because of the fires. But at the same time, it's just enjoying life and really looking at it for what it is in the perspective. And no matter what comes, like you said, it's all about the faith, the passion, and what's the vision? What is the vision? So that's just power, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll talk a little bit about this. I mean, you've had the podcast, all right. You're doing the coaching. But you started doing stuff with Jens Johnson. This Wake Up in the Morning. All right, tell us how this. Other than the part where I introduced you. Other than that, how did this come to being? I want to know.
Man, it's so funny because we would, from the time that that we met and stuff, then I went on her podcast. Went to the place out in Dallas and everything. We connected. We had phone numbers, all of that. But we would never really connect. We would text each other maybe for Christmas. Hey, Merry Christmas to your family. Blah 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 on Facebook. But then that was 2017, and then 2000. Then COVID hits. And so after all of the racial tension that was going on, she had said something on one of my posts. So I just texted her and I said, "Hey, Jens, thank you for your support, yada, yada, yada." And she texted me right back and said, "Hey," she said, "I really need to talk to you. I think God wants us to do something together." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So we got on a Zoom call. I think that was like a Thursday or Friday. And she's like, "Listen, with all this stuff going on, I know you've got, your broadcasts and all that stuff going on." She said, "But what do you think about, doing something that's biblical, but it's just real talk?" And I said, "Cool." I said, "What do we want to call it?" Me, I'm like branding, like, okay, let's, start getting this brand. And she says, "Well, let's just hold off. Let's just see how this is going to go." And I'm like, "All right, cool." And so I said, "What time do you want to do it?" She said, "I don't know, maybe 6:30 in the morning." I'm like, "Well, I'm already up at 6.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Okay." And I said, "What do you want to call it?" She goes, "I don't know, something with words, something, wake up in the word, wake up something." I said, "All right." So I'm thinking, 2 or 3 weeks down. And I said, "So when do you want to start it?" She goes, "Let's start Monday." And I'm like, Jens, I mean, she's just on fire, man. She's like, let's do it Monday." And I'm like, "This Monday?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, let's do it." So Monday morning shows up. I think we did today. I think we're almost up to 300 and something episodes. We do it every day, 5 days a week. And we just, started morphing into it. And then me with my graphics, I said, "Hey, I think it's time to do an intro video. Let's get some graphics." And we just ran with it. And man, we've shown up. And it's just been phenomenal just to be able to see the community of believers that are coming together.
Yeah.
And then those that aren't believers that really want the real talk about God, because let's face it, sometimes we get caught up in the whole religion side of all the do's and don'ts. What about the relationship? It's kind of like this conversation. It's not this strict interview. We're having a conversation. We're laughing, we're joking, we're talking. And so just being able to see it all morph together. Then we started doing Zoom calls and connect Zooms and all that kind of stuff. And just being able to be friends with people from the show, it's just amazing. Then having guests and all that good stuff. I mean, it's just been phenomenal. So that's how it started. And we're still going.
Yeah, and I find it because Jens is now doing another one with Dr. Lee and and I've been watching that one because it's more business related. And again, I've always followed stuff with Jens. I was on her show when she was with the other network as well, and really good connection that I met in Jens. And I'm sad I don't get to do more with her. I really am. It's like our worlds kind of went after a while, and someday they may come back. Somehow I still consider her a close friend at heart. So yeah,
absolutely.
But it's interesting how stuff like this morphs. And like I said, you're 307 episodes in. Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, we look at it sometimes and we're like, golly, remember episode 1? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I was broadcasting for a while, but it's always the start of something new. It always looks generic, and we look back at those and we just kind of chuckle. But yeah, I mean, we're just staying faithful.
And it's like I've been wanting to do a show with somebody for a long time, and I was always looking for the right deal and the right people. I mean, I talked to Cynthia Bazin and I talked about doing one.
Wow.
Many years ago when we were on Blab. All right, we talked about doing a show together, and like it just never, the stars didn't align and it just didn't work out. It's okay, right? I'm not mad about it. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
But like the one that I have now, I just did earlier today with my friend Katrina from California. We're on same thing as you and Jens. We're on a phone call. Like, yeah, we should do a show. When? Okay. How's Friday sound? That's wow. We're on cool. Episode 6. We're not quite to you because we're only doing one a week. So
that's awesome.
But still, it's like it was a combination that you put together. Yeah. And you guys, though, the concept you are doing and that that concept, you know what I mean, where it's got spirituality to it, it's got Christianity to it, but it's got realism to it.
Absolutely.
I've seen very few people pull that off. Glenn Lundy's another guy. He pulls it off very well. All right. We were talking about him earlier. But do you know CJ Ortiz?
No.
Metal Motivation.
Mm-mm.
Go look him up. Same concept. All right. Only he's a single person. I think he's doing a couple of shows and stuff now. But and again, CJ and I started in the coaching world like the end of 2009, like the same time.
Oh,
and
wow.
2013 or 14, I was doing a conference and I brought him in as like my special surprise guest because I knew he lived in town. And he said that was his first speaking engagement. And he said, I actually have there's a testimonial with him on one of my websites. And he talks about, we kind of started around the same time. Both have great concepts. And just in the beginning, our concepts were very close. And now they're like off. And it's just, but he does a very similar show like that. But he uses the outskirts of like metal. Heavy metal, but it's not heavy metal. If you listen to him, he's a preacher at heart.
Amen. That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's a concept to pull off. All right. You know what I mean? But it's you guys are the 3 shows that are doing that. You know what I mean? I see a lot of people trying to imitate the real and raw and unscripted type stuff, but like, it's like, there's something like an element missing from it. You guys seem to have every element in place to make it work.
There's like this crazy synergy.
Yeah.
Because we both know I stay in my lane, she stays in hers. So whenever there's so like I always do the intro. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Because I'm very techie. So I can highlight comments, I can do all that while I'm still talking. And then I pray, and then she comes in and then she just says, hey, we're gonna break this down, and she starts talking, and we just know how to flow. It's that flow and that synergy, just to honestly like be real with one another, laugh with one another. It's very hard to find that because I have tried doing other shows with other people. And I think what helps with us, and I had another show with Chrissy Moore, was the male and female perspective.
Yeah.
Because when you have 2 men, sometimes it's like dominate, dominate, dominate. And if you have 2 women, then it's just women, women, women. But if you have the 2, it's almost like this awesome perspective of like, well, here's how I think about this, and then here's how I think. And then with Jens, it's like, hey, Pastor, what do you think about this as far as scripture? And then that's when I'll go in and then start breaking it down. And some people think like we study together. We don't study at all together. We go by the Bible plan. Right now, we're just reading the Bible for the whole year. And we show up, and sometimes she's like, hey, I was really thinking about talking about this. And I'm like, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. Yeah. So it just meshes together. So it's fun, man. And she's just amazing. Yeah. She is amazing. So
and it's great when that fits. All right. When the right team fits together, it just works, right. And it's interesting, you know what I mean? Because that doesn't mean it's always perfect. And you can tell me, or not. But right. I knew the Blab days, all right? And that's when I met Cynthia in the early Blab days. There was a couple who were doing a show at night. And it was, from the moment they took off with this show, it was a same concept. He said, she said type concept.
Wow.
And it took off. And you know what I mean? One of his imperfections showed up. And she went after and tried to turn the whole world against her. And then tried to find a replacement for him. And the show died.
Absolutely. Wow.
And I'm like, you know what I mean? He's not perfect. No. He made mistakes. But rather than sit there and go, hey, he's made, you know what I mean? Go to him like, if you and I were in a deal together, I would go to you in private and go, hey, man, how can I help you fix this, brother? Because what we got going on is good, and we need to keep it going on. And if I need to step in to help you a little bit, let me know. She didn't. Instead, she went to but God says I'm supposed to point out the sinner type deal. And I'm like, whoa.
No. That's
just ruined a concept that so many people were on board with. Absolutely. And you tell me when you do it, you guys have probably had an up or down. I don't know.
Listen, we have had those conversations behind the scenes, basically like, hey, Jens, when we're doing the show, let me do the techie.
Yeah.
And, just stuff like that. But to be quite honest, I think what holds everything together is that we pray before every show. we're constantly in each other's face saying, hey, what do you think about this? So we run everything by one another. There is no I'm higher, you're higher, this is my show. That no, it's like, listen, I've already got StreamYard, let's rock this thing. Now she's already working on doing merch. So it's like, listen, you take care of that end, I'll take care of this end. We're good. And to be honest with you, Tim, there's never really been any kind of tiffs, because I just think we're just past that. And there's times where she'll goof up and we'll just laugh on the air, like like you hit that button wrong, or sometimes I'll hit the outro and all of a sudden we're off camera, and it's hilarious just doing that. But we've never really had any craziness because we've kept God as the center.
Cool.
And that was the number one thing that we've always said is, listen, we want to be able to be honest with both of our spouses. My wife knows every phone call. So there's always that protection, because it is hard to find that synergy in a co-host and a host. But like her and I always fight, like, I'm not the host, you're the host. No, you're the host, because we just look at it as, hey, we're partnering together. Yeah. We're coming together and we're doing this thing. And so that's what makes it dynamic. So I mean,
that's it. And that's what makes it, you know what I mean? It's like the bands. How many times you've seen the bands, they break up because sooner or later egos get in the way.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the bands that, I mean, you can look at the bands out there that have gotten around, all right, in the rock and roll world anyway. Like, I always love to use the example of the Eagles. You know what I mean? The Eagles at one point in time realized, you know what? We're great outside of this, but you know what I mean? We're really great together. So you know what? We're going to have to put up with each other until we learn to deal with each other.
Right.
I mean, and look at them. I mean, years later, how much they do. I remember when Aerosmith got back together and all the stuff, like Aerosmith, like they weren't allowed out in public and talking because they'd get into a fight. But they were like, no, we got to make this work. This is a team. We got to make this work. And that's where I get at. All right. Sometimes we have these things that are synergetic and work, but there's going to be sooner or later somebody has a fallout. All right. And it's how you deal with it. And you guys like, oh, we just laugh it off on air. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, listen, we have 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Every week. Each day, 30 minutes. Let's get in, let's get out. Let's talk about what we're talking about. And then on Fridays is what we call Freedom Friday, is where we do maybe 10 or 15 minutes of devotional, and then we just have everyone put all of their prayer requests in the chat stream, and we just pray, and then we let everyone go, and we have fun. I mean, it's just, that's the main thing. Keep the main thing the main thing. I
love that.
Yeah.
It's what was the movie? All right, one thing. What was that movie? I can't think of it. Anyway, I will. Oh, City Slicker. One thing.
Just the one thing.
Just one thing. Yeah, I'm a big movie buff, so I always come up with lines out of movies. So, and it's always interesting that I find that out of life, and that's my comedic relief in life is remember movie lines. So
yeah, absolutely.
I just watched a movie the other night for the first time all the way through from beginning to end, and all I can say is, stay golden, pony boy. You'll know which movie it is.
Yes, sir. Good old Outsiders. I love it. I love it.
Well, Paul, all right. I do. Before I go into closing the show, I always like to ask this question. I've got to ask it because it's a signature on my show, and that is when I was in my early 20s, I actually had a boss give me a piece of advice for my job, which turned out to be life advice. And he basically told me, Tim, I want you to run this shift that you do every night like you own this business. And it helped me take ownership of everything I do in my life. Has someone given you advice when you were younger, maybe similar to that or something that till this day you carry it as advice and you still drives around your life driving you?
There's one quote that, rest in peace. This is the man that led me to the Lord. Mm-hmm. And if I get emotional, it's just because. Okay. But he always told me, he said, Paul, because I was always about the money, grinding, got to make money. And this guy was wealthy, very wealthy. And his statement was, I don't need to be a millionaire. I just want to live like one. And so the way that I seen him live his life, you would never know he was a millionaire. never, ever know, because he was in the trenches with us. He was digging ditches with us. He was doing plumbing. He didn't look like what he owned. But that statement for me just constantly resonates with me. I don't need to be a millionaire. I just want to live like one. And he did. I mean, he did. And his life was full of integrity. He was bold. I mean, he was born in 33. So he was from that school of integrity, hard nose, make sure you do it right. And that's where
your word is your bond, baby.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I would tell somebody. Don't focus on the money, focus on the passion. Everything else will come.
I love it. So, well, Paul, it's been great having you on the show. What is the best website people can connect with you on if they want to take this relationship to the next level?
They can reach me at setfreelife.net. And if you need something to pick you up as far as figuring out how to focus your life, there is a free download at setfreelife.net/focus. And you will get that download, and it'll help you declutter your life and get you on the right path.
I love it. I appreciate it. So, well, I do thank you for coming along. But before you go, I've got a little game I like to play with all my guests.
What you got, man?
I've started coming down to 9 to about 7 questions, this or that. I give 2 choices. You pick one. Maybe there's a conversation about it. Maybe it's just we're letting that go. I don't know.
All right, man. Here we go.
All right. Number 1, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Like Luke, Star Wars, or like, that weird group in the early 2000s?
No, Star Wars, like Luke Skywalker, like old school, man. R2-D2, the ugly Yoda. You know what I'm saying? The Chewbacca. That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
I love it. Yeah, that's the good stuff. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's move on to this one. All right. I noticed you moved from the south a little bit north. Snowball fight or water balloon fight?
Snowball fight. All day. All day. All day. Because you can pack it hard. You know what I'm saying? Like you can pack them snowballs pretty hard, bro. Snowball fight all day. All day.
Man. Those are fun times. I grew up in the Northeast, so I mean, we had snowball fights all the time. Yeah.
Gotcha.
If you're going to the movies, popcorn or candy?
Popcorn. Got to have extra butter.
All the butter, baby, onto it.
Yes. Got to have
all the things that makes the heart go stop. Yep.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely, bro. The big messy bucket all over the seat, you know?
Wear you a cheap t-shirt because it's going to be full of butter and fingerprints when you're done.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I love it.
How about this one? Hamburger or taco?
Man, that's a tough one. I'd have to say tacos because I do love a good burger, but it's got to be messy.
Yeah,
that's my whole thing. It's got to be a messy burger. If it's not messy,
it's funny. I went to a thing a couple of weeks ago. I was out with my coach Craig and at his kid's school, and afterwards, my wife was out of town, so I'm like, man, I gotta get something to eat. So I stopped at this bar in like North Plano somewhere, and I'm like, I just gotta eat. So I just went. I said, whatever your cheeseburger and French fries is, I'll take it. Man, I regretted having a dress shirt on. I'm telling you, dude, it was so damn good.
That's what I'm talking about.
But like, I get people on the show, Paul, who are like, well, I'm a vegan. I'm like, dude, I live in the South. Have you not had a vegan taco? I'm a meat guy, but those vegan tacos are pretty darn good.
Right. Anything in a tortilla is good.
Yeah, it is. So.
Right.
All right. How about coffee or tea? What do you use to wake up your morning?
Coffee.
Yep. Like black cream?
No, it's got to have creamer. Got to have some hazelnut, some French vanilla. Not too sweet, but I can't drink it black. I can't. No.
I've gotten down to 2 shots of espresso and a little bit of whipped cream.
That sounds good. That sounds good right there, brother.
It's like, I remember like when I had my auto body shops, I'd have a pot of coffee brewing the whole day, right?
Yeah.
Now I have 2 shots of espresso in the morning and I might get 2 shots and I drink iced tea throughout the day. It's like, man, how life has changed. And those 2 shots are like more powerful than that whole pot of coffee.
Right. Exactly.
All right, let's move into the controversial ones.
Oh man, here we go.
Toilet paper. Does it go over on the roll at your house or under?
Over.
All right. And that rule?
Huh?
It's a rule at your house?
Yeah. It's got to go over, man. I can't stand it when it's under. Cannot stand it. It won't stop going.
So Paul, I had this lady on my broadcast about a year and a half ago. All right. And basically I asked her that question and she goes, well, it's got to be over. And I'm telling you, I'm a single girl. If I go to a guy's house and I'm dating him, after 3 times I change that role from under to over, I'm breaking up. This relationship's going nowhere.
What?
But the greatest ones are the people who are like all like, rainbows and unicorns and sunshine and roses and life is so great. You ask that question, over. I'm like, whoa,
what happened to the good energy?
What happened to that energy there? But let me step back from this screen on that one.
Exactly. Wow. That's hilarious.
All right. My last one. All right. And it's funny. I get to ask guys this question. Boxers or briefs?
Boxer briefs.
That's what I'm wearing, dude. And only I have a podcast where I can ask the guys, hey, what are you wearing, man?
Boxer briefs, man. When I was younger, it was boxers.
Yeah.
But you start getting older, things start changing.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I remember for me, it was in the early days was always the tighty whities. And I got them because my grandmother, wait a minute, when I was like 19 through about 25, my grandmother used to say every year, well, what do you want for Christmas? Just buy me socks and underwear, Nana. That's fine. It's like,
right. Tidy whities.
One less thing for me to go shopping for that year. All right. And that's what she got me was tidy whities. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, well, Paul, one more time, tell them that website so the people on the audio as well as the video can find you and take it to the next level.
Awesome. They can go to setfreelife.net. You can connect with me on all social media platforms through setfreelife.net, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And that's where everything's at. My downloads, my blog, all that good stuff. So, that's all I got.
Cool. Well, thank you, Paul. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule today to spend time with my audience. It warms my heart. Thank you, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
You bet. Hey, guys, to you, the listeners, I want to thank you guys for coming in. Do me a favor. Go check out setfreelife.net. Go check out Paul and everything he has got going on. I'm telling you, you're going to want to connect with him and see all of these podcasts he's doing that we've been talking about today. And if you have not already, go subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as to where you get your podcasts. I'm Tim Gillette. This is the Tim Gillette Show. And I promise you, I'll be back with another awesome, cool person real soon. Stay tuned, and we'll see you guys